Okay, so I have both programs open. Command Tab is going to let me toggle between both the Photoshop file, which is just this vertical view. This is the page that's 4 1/4 at the top with the ruler guides, and it's 5 1/2 coming vertical down to this section. And if I were to make this new again, I would just go into this section and then in the custom piece, just placing 5 1/2, 4 1/4 at 300 pixels per inch to make this fit in there, and just hit create. And that would give me this page size. This title, the words are just on a layer, so it's not to interfere, but then just going back to Illustrator and taking a look at the illustrations that you have. Now you can do it one of two ways. You can draw the box around it so it'll fit within that parameter, or you can just take the image from here and just go to Edit, Copy It, and just go to Command Tab, go to Photoshop, and I'm just going to select and just go to Edit, Paste up here. See if it'll let me place it on here. Now you want to make sure that you have this piece comes up, and it gives you four options: Smart Object, Pixels, Path, and Shape Layer. And the one you're going to go for is Pixels, so I'm going to click OK. The other ones will give you different options, and you'll figure out what that comes up in a little bit later. But as soon as I place it in there, automatically puts in a new layer, has a bounding box to it. I can scale it, resize it, hold the Shift key down to keep it in proportion, and then just go ahead and click this checkbox up at the top. Now when I click off the title, this becomes the image. Okay, and you'll find the different selections and things in here are characteristic of Photoshop that aren't necessarily in Illustrator. And what I mean by that is you have all these options of the different shapes that are colored inside of it, and they follow through with if there are gaps or if there's pieces that are missing. So there's like a little gap right there with the pixels. The more I zoom in, you can see it. There's a little gray selection there, but as I go to start to paint this, some of those may need to be closed together, either with a black line or another shape that allows me to color this in. So this is actually just a line on the white background, and I can color right on there and just give myself a new layer, which I tend to do, and just give it a title by typing right on top of it. And generally just kind of painting out the basic shapes of the colors that you would use, and that would be just by using a paint bucket tool. And you have the same concept of all the different swatch colors that come up. And just to show you, when I click on this, all layers is selected up at the top. So when I click on this, it'll fill that piece in. There is a tolerance of 32 pixels that come up, and it allows me. So right there you can see that it spreads out everywhere. So somewhere along this drawing, there's a gap that fills out right here, for example, by the toe. So either do this prior to the drawing when you're in Illustrator, or when you come into Photoshop. If you take a pencil tool, for example, it'll give you the default of black when you click on the keystroke for the fill and stroke, and you can kind of go in there and just put a little line inside like that. And like I said, if you did this in Illustrator prior to it, you'll have a little bit more flexibility with the drawing and all these little gaps that it shoots through. So it just kind of emphasizes the fact of how the software is put together. So just kind of showing you that into these sections here. You just kind of inspect the drawing, take a look at it, and either do this prior to or after you get into Photoshop. And then now you're set to take that color. And I'm just taking the eyedrop tool. It's very similar to some of the coloring that you've done with Illustrator. You can kind of see how all these pieces now match together. So once you have the basic, this foot right here, I have to kind of fix that gap. Once you have the basic pieces in there, using the dodge and burn tool or just another painting source, you can start to color and shade the different shadows, shapes, and colors that you end up with into the drawing. And this will be acting as your cover page. Okay? So from Illustrator right into Photoshop brings it into that section.